Adding new chickens to your flock is exciting, but it can also be challenging. Today we're going to look at flock integration so you can set yourself up for success and the least amount of ruffled feathers. What is flock integration? Well, simply put, it just means adding together birds that haven't previously lived together. So generally, this is when you have got yourself some new chickens, some new hens, and you want to add them to your existing flock. And we're going to look at all the different ways you can go about doing that. We're going to look at 4 specific scenarios for adding new chickens to your flock. First, we're going to look at how you add new adult hens to a flock that already has adult hens in it. We're going to look at how you bring chicks into your flock. We're going to look at adding a rooster to a flock of hens, and we're going to look at adding a rooster to a flock that already has a rooster in residence. And once we've talked about all of that, we're going to talk about sleeping arrangements, because getting all your flock to sleep together is the most challenging part of all. No matter what scenario you're looking at, you're going to need a few things to set up for success. And the first thing that you need is lots of time and patience to see this process through. The more space you have, the better. If you can have an area where the chickens can essentially free range, it doesn't mean they have to be there all the time, but while the introductions are happening, the bigger the space you have available, the better. You're going to need to add more food and water spaces so that you're reducing any competition or bullying opportunities around those areas. And you're going to want to have enough room in your coop, or potentially another coop altogether, to ensure that this process goes smoothly. The first scenario we're going to look at is adding mature adult hens or pullets. So these could be chickens around like 6 months old approximately. So you're talking about a chicken that is either an adult or very, very close to an adult, and looking at adding those to a pre-existing flock of already adult mature hens. And this is probably the most common scenario that people are facing when they're looking at adding 2 flocks together. If you haven't already gone out and got your new chickens, it's worth having a look at my best breeds video, because that explains which breeds are compatible with which other breeds, because not all breeds play nicely with all other breeds. So something to keep in mind. The first thing you're going to need for this introduction is a setup where the chickens can see each other but not touch each other. And that could be a setup of some portable chicken fencing within the run space that your pre-existing flock are in. You could look at some kind of enclosed small run that they can go in, so that your pre-existing chicken flock can cruise around and get used to these new arrivals being in their space. How long you'll need to keep your chickens completely separate really depends on how it's going. I can't give you an absolute time frame on this. You're going to have to make your own decision based on your own judgment. But usually you're going to need it to be at least a couple of hours and maybe a couple of days. You just see how things are going. Once you are confident that you can move away from the look, don't touch sort of enclosure, if you have a neutral space or a free-ranging area where you can let the 2 meet, then that is ideal. It's going to give you the best opportunity. If you don't have that situation, you can still go ahead and let your new arrivals out into your pre-existing run, but make sure you're keeping a really, really close eye on their interactions. It may be that you want to allow them to interact fully together and then go back to their separate spaces for a bit longer. And this is a really sort of safe way if you're quite cautious about the whole thing, or if you don't have time to be watching and listening for concerning behavior. And speaking of concerning behavior, what is a problem and what isn't? Well, it's going to be completely normal for there to be a bit of pecking, a bit of kerfuffling, a bit of chasing, chasing and some general just shenanigans as they work out who are these new chickens and how do they fit into the pre-existing flock structure. What is concerning is if your pre-existing chickens, or the newcomers, but it's less likely that your newcomers are going to be the bullies, continue to go on with aggressive behavior after the chicken that is being the target of this aggressive behavior has entered a submissive state. And in chickens, this is usually seen by head pecking. So if there is a lot of targeted aggression pecking at the heads of your chickens, then that is concerning behavior. That is behavior you need to step in and stop. But if it's just a few pecks here and there, some chasing, some general chaos, that is normal and natural. So watch for very aggressive targeted pecking on heads and watch for blood. And if you're seeing any of that happen, step in, roll your integration back a step and let everything calm down. Let's look now at adding chicks to your flock. So in this scenario, we're assuming that you're adding young chicks into a pre-existing flock of adult hens. Now, if you've got your chicks at about 10 weeks or older, just go ahead and follow the same protocol as introducing adult birds because they are old enough to sort of go in and just have that process followed. But be extra cautious because they're going to be smaller, which means it's going to be easier for the larger hens to injure these smaller ones. So just be extra cautious, maybe take longer before they're coming together. But in general, you can just go ahead and follow the same protocols for adult hens. If you've been raising the chicks yourself, either from hatching eggs or from day-old chicks, it's actually easier to make the integration happen. And what you want to do there is once your chicks are ready to come out and have outside time, which is from around 4 weeks old if the weather is nice, or earlier in some cases if the weather is really, really nice. But from 4 weeks old, you want to bring them out, and obviously they're going to be in a safe enclosure where adult hens can't get to them anyway because you're protecting them from any predators in the environment. But locate that little outdoor area for them to have their outdoor time either in the run with the adult hens or very close by. So as your chicks are coming out every day for their outside time, everyone's just getting used to each other in a very natural, long process. So by the time your chicks are sort of 6 weeks old, 6 to 8 weeks old and ready to start living full-time outside, everybody has already formed a bit of a relationship together. A great time of day for letting your chicks and your hens be all together without the safety of the enclosure between them is just a wee bit before the time that they would be going to bed. So maybe half an hour before the hens would be taking themselves off to their coop to sleep. Let them out together to just hang out because you're limiting the amount of time, and at that time of day, the chickens tend to be quite chill anyway. So for a few days, it's a really great idea to just let them out together for longer and longer periods of time in the evening. It's a really easy strategy for getting everybody to play nicely together. And it's a really individual how things will go. You might have a hen that really loves the chicks and is sort of their friend and wants to defend them and take them around and introduce them into the flock. Or all your hens might be like, no, we don't want these chicks in our space. So I can't tell you how it's going to go. Chickens are very individual with individual personalities and anything could happen. A really great way to integrate your chicks even earlier is to set up their chick enclosure, their outdoor chick enclosure, which has their food and their water and somewhere safe and sheltered for them to be and to sleep. To set that area up in a way that the chicks can enter and exit and the big chickens cannot get in and out. And you can locate this within the main run, and then the chicks can come out and interact with the flock, and then if they just need some space, some chill time, they can duck back into their safe space where the hens can't get in and cause them any trouble. And they can also have their chick starter feed in there, which they can keep eating, and the hens can't get in to eat that if you don't want your hens eating the chick starter feed. Now we're going to look at adding an adult rooster to a flock of adult hens that don't have a rooster already with them. Now, this is the easiest integration to do, and the great thing about adding a rooster to your flock is that you will then have fertile eggs that you can place under a broody hen, and you'll never have to worry about integration again. There are some important considerations when choosing the rooster that you're going to add to your flock. And the first consideration is that you want the rooster to be at least 8 months old, and 12 months or older is better. You want him to be an adult rooster capable of coming in and impressing your hens so that they will accept him more readily. If you have heavy breed dual purpose hens, then you probably want to get a similar rooster. And the same is true if you have light breed hens, you probably want to get a light breed rooster. It's not necessarily super important, but generally you want your hens and your rooster to be temperamentally compatible, because heavy breed roosters tend to be a lot more chill, just like the hens, and lighter breed roosters tend to be a lot more active, just like lighter breed hens. And if you've got a light breed rooster that's super active with a bunch of chill dual purpose hens, they might not be as impressed about the whole situation. So just like all the other integration protocols we've talked about, you're going to put the rooster separate from the flock. You're going to allow them to see him, so that's the look, don't touch enclosure. You're probably only going to need to leave him there for an hour or two, and then you can let them out together and keep an eye on how things are going. But most likely, in most circumstances, your hens are going to be quite happy to have a mature rooster come and join them. Your head hen, the previous boss hen of your flock, might be a little bit miffed, but if you've picked a really fabulous rooster, she's probably going to be just as impressed as everybody else. We're going to look now at the hardest integration, and that is adding a rooster to a flock that already has a rooster. Now, this can go well or it can go badly. What you want to do, first of all, is make sure you have enough hens for each rooster, which is at least 5 hens per rooster if you have heavy dual purpose breeds, or 8 to 10 hens per rooster if you have lighter breeds. So very important you have enough hens to go around. The easiest and simplest way to do this is just to raise up a rooster from a chick who can grow up in your flock and then just come in and take that second rooster position with the head rooster, your already existing rooster. That's easy. I would recommend doing it that way. But if you want to add a almost mature rooster or a mature rooster to your flock, you need to be pretty careful about it. I recommend picking a rooster that is 6 months old or younger, because the younger the rooster is, the more he is going to submit to the already existing mature rooster and be less likely to try and pick fights with him. But your already existing rooster is probably going to do some beating on the new rooster, so that is pretty normal and natural, but do keep an eye on it. It is really important that you have enough space if you're going to have 2 roosters, and that is quite a bit of space. I have 2 roosters and I have had 3 roosters before, but I have about 800 square meters for my chickens to roam around in, as well as access to a giant orchard. So it's a lot of space and I don't have problems. But if you have a run situation, a small space, then 2 roosters might not be a good idea in the first place. For introducing your new rooster, you want to follow the protocols for the adult hen introduction. You want to have the rooster separated from the flock, but in a way that they can see him, and you're probably going to want to leave him there for several days. So he needs somewhere to sleep in the meantime, because you really want everybody to be comfortable together. And then you want to do short bursts of supervised interactions together where everyone is in the same space. And you just want to follow that along until you see that everything's going pretty well, and then they can just cruise on and be out together. But one thing that is very important to keep in mind is if you have a game breed rooster already, or you're looking at introducing a game breed rooster, don't do that. 2 game breed roosters together in the same space is not a good idea, and just 1 game breed rooster and a different kind of rooster is also not a good idea, because most game breed roosters have been bred to not submit, to not back down in a fight, and they will take conflict much further than other breeds of roosters will do, and in some cases they will even fight to the death. So unless you are very experienced, and you are experienced with game breed roosters, do not add a game breed rooster to your flock if you have another rooster. We're going to talk about sleeping arrangements, and this has its own section because it is the hardest part of integration. The established flock will not want to share their sleeping quarters. Chickens are very protective about the places that they sleep, and even if they're totally happy to hang out together during the day and cruise around and everything's great and they are friends, when it comes time to go to bed at night, those established flock in their coop are not going to want to let the newcomers in to sleep with them. Even when you've had a broody hen raise chicks and integrate them herself into the flock, when the broody hen decides that she is finished raising those chicks might not be allowed into the coop with their mother. It's sort of just a termination of the relationship, and those chicks goes to the bottom of the pecking order. So I have that happen quite often. Generally speaking, the chicks that are raised up in my flock are not allowed to go into the adult sleeping quarters until they have gotten quite a bit bigger and can get into the tree, or can really weasel their way into the coop, or they have to find their own different place to sleep. If you want an easy solution to this problem, just get another coop for your new chickens. Then they can sleep in there, and your established flock can sleep in the coop that they already have, and it is drama-free and everyone can just move on. But if that is not an option for you, buckle in, because it's going to take a while to make sure everyone sleeps together. Make sure your coop is roomy enough for everybody that you want to fit in there. The bigger, the better when you're trying to get 2 groups of chickens to coexist together. And it is best to have perches that are at different levels. So the existing flock members can take the premium perches at the top, and they can make the newcomers take the lower perches, which are not as awesome. So make sure you have a good coop capable of sustaining, with room to spare, all the chickens you want to fit in there. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to wait until your established flock has gone to bed in their coop, and you're gonna wait for them to be really settled in there, and you want it to be getting dark, so not pitch black where they can't see at all anymore, but you want it to be quite dusky, where they're starting to be less able to see and less willing to move around. And then you're going to take your new chickens and put them in the coop with your old chickens, and you're going to shut them in there for the night. It's really important that you get up early to let them out at daybreak, or set your automatic coop door to let them out, because you don't want them all stuck together in that small space, because they will start fighting. And you are going to do this every single night until the chickens have integrated and they just all go to the coop to sleep together. And I can't tell you how long that is going to take, but once it has happened, they will keep doing that, because chickens are creatures of habit. They like to do the same things over and over again once they have formed that habit. But it could take a week or more of doing this every single night until everybody has got with the new program and has a new habit formed. So that is how to integrate new chickens with your old established flock. It can be challenging. It's going to require time and patience and effort, and making sure that you have what you need in the setup so it all goes successfully. But once you have achieved it, you will have a calm, happy, integrated flock on into the future.